This in turn is controlled by hormones. Then tadpole will metamorphosize precariously. It fed on the thyroid gland or on its extract, that is the extract of thyroid gland. But if the thyroid is removed from a tadpole, it continues to grow, but it does not change into toad, so it will remain a tadpole. The next vertebrate is the agama lizard. So I was talking about the reproduction in agama lizard. Internal fertilization is effected in agama lizard when the hemipenis of the male is introduced into the cloaca of the female and the sperms are discharged there. After fertilization, the eggs develop inside the female, that is oviparous. Later, the female lizard lays the few eggs, about 6 to 7 eggs, in a hole, which she digs in the soil. The eggs absorb water from the surrounding soil and swell to several times their original size. After absorbing water from the surrounding soil, the egg swells up. About 6 to 7 weeks after the eggs are laid, they hatch. They hatch out into active young lizard, that is ovoviviparity, crawling out of the soil. There is no parental care for the young lizard. It becomes sexually mature after 18 months and takes part in courtship and mating activities. Now to reproduction in birds. During mating, the male pigeon mounts on the female and discharges sperms into the reproductive tract by placing its cloaca against the cloaca of its mate. Fertilization in bird is internal and it occurs as soon as the egg cell is released from the ovary during copulation or coition. The female pigeon lays 1 or 2 eggs in a nest per breeding season. She incubates and hatches them, that is oviparous, while the domestic fowl lays about 15 eggs. So you can see the difference between the pigeon and the domestic fowl. Pigeon lays about 1 to 2 eggs per breeding season, while the female fowl lays about 15 eggs. The incubation period is about 18 days. In domestic fowl is about 21 days. Then the fertilized egg has layers of albumen, membranes, and shells secreted around them. What are the adaptive features for the developing embryo? How does the embryo adapt? The egg yolk, it has egg yolk, these yellow substances, which produce enough food for the developing embryo. Then the albumen, that's the external parts to the yolk, is kind of whitish, is liquid. The albumen produces water and food, then absorbs shock. Those are the 3 functions of the albumen. It provides water and food, then absorbs shock. Then the porous layer, the porous shell, it has a shell. It protects and allows for gas exchange. The allantois aids respiration and excretion, while the amnion cushions and protects the embryo. The chalaza thread suspends the yolk for protection. Now, the structure of the male reproductive system. The structure of the male reproductive system. We are talking about vertebrates now, but we are moving to mammals. The male reproductive system, or the male reproductive system consists of the testes, the epididymis, the urethra, the penis, the prostrate gland, and the COWPER'S gland. So you can see the organs in this diagram. Now we're talking about them one by one. The testes are first situated in the lower part of the abdomen, but immediately after birth, they descend into a pair of sacs. That is the scrotal sac or the scrotum. That's the extra. You can see the sac here. Then each testis is attached to the base of its scrotal sac by a strand consisting mainly of elastic tissues called gubernaculum. Then each testis is made up of coiled tubules known as the seminiferous tubules, in which sperms, that is protozoa, are produced. So sperms are produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testes. The epididymis is a long coiled tube formed outside the testes. The long coiled tube formed outside the testes. So it is external to the testes. The function of the epididymis is to remove and store sperms temporarily. The epididymis is connected to the sperm ducts or the vas deferens. Then each vas deferens joins a duct from a sperm storing sac, the seminal vesicle, and now forms an ejaculatory duct. Now, the next organ we'll be talking about is the penis. The seminal vesicle opens into the urethra. The urethra is the genital duct, that is the passage. It is the passage for urine. That's what urethra does. The passage for urine. So it leads to the exterior through the penis. That is the urethra. The urethra is this thin-lined structure that leads to the external through the penis. The penis has a retractile skin covering its end region, known as the glans penis. Semen is expelled from the penis by powerful contraction of the urethra in a process of ejaculation. I said earlier that urethra is the passage for penis. Also, it is the passage for the semen or the sperm now. So, the semen is expelled from the penis by powerful contraction. The urethra has to contract in a process called ejaculation. So, but one thing that happens is that during ejaculation, urine doesn't come out. Since urethra is the passage for the semen and the urine, there is a reflex mechanism that occurs in the man that inhibits urination. Rather, it is the semen that is expelled from the penis. Then the prostrate gland. The prostrate gland surrounds the urethra where the bladder enters it. The prostrate gland produces a fluid to activate the sperms, feed and prevent the sperm from sticking together. The COWPER'S gland. The COWPER'S gland is located below the prostrate gland. It produces fluid whose exact function is not known, but it washes out traces of urine in the urethra before ejaculation. And why does it do that? It prevents a reduction in the, that is, it prevents dilution. The COWPER'S gland prevents dilution of the semen. That is why it washes out the traces of urine. It prevents the urine from mixing up with the semen. So it washes out traces of urine in the urethra before ejaculation of the seminal fluid. Then secretions are supplied by the seminal vesicle, the COWPER'S gland, and the prostrate gland. The structure of the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system consists of the uterus or the womb, the oviducts, the ovary, the cervix, the vagina, the urethra, and the vulva. So you can see all the structure: the ovary, the oviduct, the urinary bladder, the urethra, the clitoris, labium majora, labium minora, the vagina, the cervix. You have the uterus, the rectum, the urethra. Now, we'll be talking about them one by one and their function. The ovaries are the ones that produce egg or ova. Then the fallopian tube or the oviduct is this curved structure. The right ovum passes through the oviduct from the ovary to the uterus. And another function of the oviduct is that fertilization takes place there. Fertilization of the ova takes place in the oviduct. Then the vagina. The vagina is the muscular tube that leads to the exterior opening just before the urethra. So the urethra is connected to the vagina. I said when I was talking about the male reproductive system that the urethra is the urinogenital tract. That is, the urine passes through the urethra to the exterior. So the urine passes out through the vagina too. Then the male penis is inserted in the vagina. That's another function during mating. The vagina is also the passage for fetus during birth. Hence, the vagina is called the birth canal because the fetus passes out through the vagina in childbirth. Then the vagina may be partially covered at the entrance by a thin mucous membrane called the hymen. The hymen is a thin mucous membrane that covers the vagina. It's filled with blood. It may be ruptured by sexual activities. So that's why they say the person is a virgin or not. It's the hymen, the presence of the hymen that makes a person a virgin or not. So it may be ruptured by sexual activities or even non-sexual activities. For instance, when there is some vigorous exercise can remove the hymen without any sexual activity. So it covers the vagina. Then the next is the uterus or the womb. The uterus is the muscular organ with mucous membrane lining called the endometrium. It's the location for the development and the protection of the fertilized egg. So the uterus or the womb is where the baby or the fertilized egg called the zygote develops. That's where the zygote stays till birth. Then it divides many times. The uterus divides many times to make a ball of cells called the embryo. The cervix. The cervix